Congress is this big, giant black box, and people can't see what's going on inside of that black box. They know they're electing their congressman and 2 of their senators and the president, and they're sending them to Washington, D.C., and then they don't understand what comes out of that box. I've been in that box for 12 years.
Okay.
And I think that's sort of what my role has evolved to, which is to just try to tell people what's going on inside of the box so that they can do a better job of picking congressmen and senators.
That's what I always think. I'm like, if somebody would just get elected just to get in there and tell us we don't even fucking... No, we'll buy you a Volvo or whatever. Fucking, you know what I'm saying? We'll give you some Taiwan Semiconductor shares, but just tell us what's happening in there. Somebody fucking look in there and just throw a note out and be like, "Hey, this is what's really going on." And now the problem we start to get into is there's so much like pandering and everything, and on so much social media used to like try and disguise who the messenger is. It really turns into a game, and I think that is one thing that's the only joy of it is watching the masters of this just Game of Thrones type of energy go on. But
the biggest, I'll tell you right now, this would be 50% of solving the problem. If it's not a silver bullet, but it's a lot of it. Get rid of the giant bills. Okay. The omnibus bills, the continuing resolutions, and even the big beautiful bill. Why not put that shit on the floor one at a time?
I agree.
And then that way, you can go to your representative or your senators and say, why did you vote for that? Right now, they can say, well, Theo, I had to vote for it. I had a pay raise for soldiers, right? They literally will put a pay raise for soldiers in every freaking bill, giant bill, so that if you vote against it, you have to go back home and watch TV ads that say he voted against a pay raise for the soldiers.
Right. Even though he may have voted for 90 other amazing things on the bill, right?
Right.
And that was one thing that was tied in there, that if you went this way,
Yeah.
It may have been like oxygen for grandmothers, right?
Literally, there probably is that in there.
But if you vote for oxygen for grandmothers, then they're not going to give. So I see what you're saying.
I voted against oxygen for grandmothers so many times they can't even run that ad anymore. It doesn't even seem real.
Has there ever been a bill that was like, okay, we want to stop these omnibus bills? And bring up omnibus bill. We looked it up the other day when Mr. Vance was here, but I just want to go over it again. An omnibus bill is proposed law that covers a number of diverse or unrelated topics. Omnibus is derived from Latin. It means to, for, by, with, or from everything. An omnibus bill is a single document that is accepted in a single vote by a legislator, but packages together several measures into one or combines diverse subjects. So it's not even really fair because you only get one vote on the bill?
Correct. What? And so typically an omnibus bill, it includes at least 12 other bills. Because the 1974 Budget Control Act, there's a law that says we're supposed to do these bills separately. So we've already tried the law. We already tried that, Theo. They just suspend that rule, those budget rules, every year.
Okay. So, but take me through this moment so I don't stray from it, so people so I can understand it. So, like, give me 2 examples of things that would be on an omnibus bill that would be that there's no way for a voter to win, that there's no way for a representative to vote and win on.
Okay. Well, the easiest, let me just take something topical, the Big Beautiful Bill. Inside of that Big Beautiful Bill is a provision for artificial intelligence corporations that says
10 years. 10 years.
For 10 years, no state or locality can regulate them. And then it talks about zoning and routing, which if some of your listeners may have seen this, like locally, some big corporation wants to put a data center in your backyard. Well, that's what Congress is trying to do. They're trying to say that these corporations can override local zoning laws, that the local zoning board should take a back seat and let this big information center show up in your backyard that uses all kinds of water and all kinds of power and puts out all kinds of RF and has,
Oh, yeah, your fucking cousin's going to be walking down the street just fucking, just fucking screaming out Amazon orders, It's going to be, the shit that's going to start happening is going to be crazy. You're literally going to be driving down the road with your your windows open and an old gust of 5G remnants from Blockbuster emails that never got uploaded are just gonna pass through your fucking vehicle. Shit's gonna get insane. You're gonna have babies that are born with advertisements like birthmarks that show up as this is a set of twins with Nike logos on them. What is happening, man?
So that's in the big beautiful bill. Okay. And you can know that's evil. You can know that's bad. And Trump never campaigned on that. But also in that bill is to enforce our borders. Okay. To finish the wall.
Right.
So if you're a Republican and you vote for that bill, okay, you supported enforcing the border, but you also let AI basically take over your local and state governments. Okay. And then if you vote against it, well, then you're against the AI provision, but oh my gosh, you're for open borders, you know? You don't want to support the military. There was $100 billion in there for the military. Yeah. There was, you want to tax seniors. There was a tax cut for seniors. There was an extension of the tax cuts from 2017. I voted for the 2017 tax cuts, but I voted against this 2025 bill because it's got a lot of crap in there that doesn't belong and it's going to balloon our deficit.
Right.
So you can't win for losing. And so I don't blame a lot of my colleagues. Like they come to Congress, they have the best intentions, and you get there and you're like, oh my gosh, this whole game is rigged. How am I going to play it? Am I going to call it out? Will that be the best for my constituents who elected me? Or should I play along? And most of them choose to play along.
Yeah.
And you can't really blame them. They feel like, oh, my fiduciary duty to the people who elected me is to get as much as I can up here. And if I piss off the Trump and I piss off Mike Johnson, I can't get any table scraps. But the reality is they're not even getting table scraps. They're trading. I say every week, congressmen trade their votes for magic beans that never sprout, like Jack and the Beanstalk. He trades the cow for magic beans. The difference is Jack got beans that sprouted. My congressmen, they're not getting gas vouchers. They're not getting a Cracker Barrel gift certificate even.
So explain to me how that part works. So that's a part that I don't understand because you mentioned it a little while ago. You're like, I could have a bill and I put it forward because Mike Johnson seems like a good guy. He doesn't seem like somebody that would take something that was yours and make it somebody else's. Like, I don't understand what you're saying. Like, how does that work? And take me through like how can you put a bill out and people would know it's your bill? I mean, obviously, is there information online that says this is a bill that Thomas Massie made or that any person made, like any representative made?
The other thing they'll do with your bills is they'll stick them in another bill.
Okay.
I'll give you an example.
Yeah, show me how you're saying that people aren't even getting the scraps or whatever. You know what I'm saying?
Right.
Just take me through some of that.
Well, they're not. Theo, I tell people, I joke with my colleagues up there. They're like, Massie, why? You're not a sellout. I'm just like, I look at them in the eye. I say, I'm the biggest sellout up here. Like, I would sell out for Snickers bar, but you guys aren't even getting a Snickers bar. You're not getting a bridge in your district. You're not getting a new exit off the interstate.
Yeah.
You're not getting anything for your vote. Like nobody's ever offered me anything up there of value. I don't even know myself I could be the biggest sellout there is. There's just no trade up there that's worth taking. And so mostly people are trying to stay relevant and get reelected.
Right. That makes perfect sense, right? Everybody's looking out for themselves in a sense. But you would think at some point that even that would lose its appeal. When you look around your town or your community and you see that like, oh man, by not really benefiting the people, it's all falling apart. You know, by not really benefiting the country, it's falling apart. And I'm starting to sound like a downer again. I don't want to do that.
It should.
But take me through what you're talking about. How you put a bill up and it doesn't get labeled yours. So it's plagiarism, or I don't understand what you're saying.
And then if you do get something done by working inside of the system, you won't get any credit for it. So for instance, when Ron Paul left Congress, I came into Congress and I introduced—
That's Randy's daddy?
Yep, Rand's dad. I introduced a lot of Ron Paul's bills. And one was the Industrial Hemp Farming Act because it was illegal. They treated hemp just like marijuana. It was illegal to grow it according to federal government. So I introduced that bill and I got a lot of co-sponsors and I figured out a way to work with Democrats and get it into the farm bill. Now, it was a Republican farm bill that I got it into, but I needed Democrat and Republican votes to do it. And I got it in the farm bill, But now, like, people online say, "Oh, Congressman Massie," and it became law, by the way, and people can grow industrial hemp in all 50 states. That's the end of the, that's the rest of the story.
Oh yeah, a lot of chicks that don't wear deodorant are working on those places. And no offense, ladies, I don't mind it. But yeah, no, I'm glad that we have another product in our country. You know,
right? And so that became law. That was one of my bills, but nobody ever gives me credit for it because it wasn't a separate bill that said. And by the way, I voted for that crap sandwich, the farm bill, which is a big giant bill. And then I took crap for voting for that because it had my thing in it, but now I don't get credit for it. But I haven't particularly had bills where somebody took my name off them and put somebody else's name, but my colleagues have.
Okay. So you haven't had that exact thing happen to you from Mike Johnson?
No.
But you've seen it happen.
Yeah.
You're saying.
And if it did, I wouldn't care that much. I mean, if it's a good bill, make it happen. But a lot of people, they need to go back to their district and say, I got this done.
Oh, I see. So a lot of times people don't know from their Congress people or their representatives that they actually got this thing done.
Right.
Right. So there's a communication issue there.
And then there's another thing that happens, like some congressman gets to D.C. and they have this bill they wanted to pass even before he was a congressman. And they say, we'll put your name on it and then you'll get credit for it. And then the congressman has no idea about the subject or anything. So there was a bill that came to the floor. It was about opioids. Okay. And I voted against it. And the sponsor of the bill comes up to me and says, why did you vote against my bill? And I said, well, I'm not against research or things like that at the federal level, but this is basically a form of Obamacare. And I thought we were against that, like, because this had treatment and stuff, which should be handled at the state level. And he looked at me and said, you're right. He said, I'd vote against this too if it weren't my bill. He said, the leadership gave it to me and told me to bring it to the floor and it would help me get reelected.
Wow.
I swear to the Lord above, that is an exact conversation I had on the floor.
Yeah. Oh, I believe you, dude.
Congressman from Wisconsin. He's still there.
He is?
Yeah.
White guy, I bet, huh?
Oh, yeah.
That was a guess, dude. That was a guess.
By the way, but not to pick on him because that year we passed like 38 opioid bills.
Yeah.
They're all redundant. They just gave everybody they were trying to get reelected, they give them an opioid bill.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they were renewing more prescriptions for opioid bills than they were opioids. That's the craziest fucking part of it. And the Sackler family never even went to fucking jail. And some people believe that the Sackler family should be electrocuted. Allegedly. I don't know them, and I don't even know if electricity would work on their fucking sick, evil bodies. Is that slander for saying that? Can I go to jail for saying that? It might be a death threat, huh?
You can, but I can't.
Could Mike Johnson put a bill on the floor about the omnibus thing?
Yeah.
And then we could see who would vote for it and vote against it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
He could, but he's not going to.
Right. Because it would be too dangerous.
It's way too dangerous. I mean, the lobbyists love it that way.
Yeah.
They love the opaqueness of that black box that Americans can't look into it and see what's going on. Yeah. Because they're inside the black box. They get to craft language and special provisions in those big giant bills, and they're so big and we're not given time to read them. But you got to remember, Theo, like a lot of my colleagues wouldn't read these bills even if they were given 3 months to read them. What they're doing by rushing these bills through is they're not hoodooing the congressman, they're hoodooing the public.
Of course. No, I think it makes perfect sense. It's like, because we just send one set of eyes and brain up there to handle something, or a couple sets if you have a few reps. And then but it's so much information at once. It's all the same thing. It's literally like a bus passing by. It's like with a car passing by, you can get an idea of what's on it. You can look at the wheels, you can check the exhaust, might be able to see who's in there. But when a bus goes by, you're like, fuck, I don't know, was a driver awake, That's kind of like, that's how it certainly starts to appear. My question,
and the windows are painted black on the bus.
Oh, yeah, dude. And somebody wrote "just married to a trans man" on the windows with chalk or whatever with window paint.